Fighting fire with fire in some situations, like a battle or war, might seem like the right answer. However, for sure, fighting fire with fire in a marriage or in a relationship that you actually care about is not the best answer. We know that fighting fire with fire just causes more fire. Even if you win the firefight, it causes more harm than good to a relationship. One or even both of you are gonna feel burned, and this is not what you should want for your relationship. So instead of fighting fire with fire, here are some things that you should consider. When your significant other brings an argument to you, if your first response is always to argue back, then you're fighting fire with fire. When your significant other assumes something bad about you, whether they're right or wrong, if your first answer is to assume something bad about them, then you're fighting fire with fire. If your significant other accuses you of something, whether they're right or wrong, if your first response or your first answer to that accusation is to accuse them of something else, then you're fighting fire with fire. In 1 Peter chapter 3, after Peter highlighted how Jesus treated people who didn't treat him so well, and how wives were supposed to respect their husbands who may not have been treating them so well, and how husbands are supposed to respect their wives who may not be treating them so well, Peter wrote this to both husbands and wives. 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. Just imagine Peter saying, do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult or fire with fire. Instead of arguing or assuming or accusing them back, try these 3 things. Acknowledge before you argue, ask before you assume, and apologize before you accuse. When the other person tries to start an argument with you, before you start arguing back, think to yourself, is there something that I need to acknowledge about what they're saying before I give an answer? When the other person assumes something bad about you, whether they're right or wrong, before you answer, think to yourself, is there something I need to ask them before I assume wrongly about what they're saying? If the other person is accusing you of something, before you answer this accusation, think to yourself, is there something I need to apologize for before I start accusing them of something? Before I start thinking to myself, well, yeah, I do that, but you do this. Or yeah, I don't do that, but you don't do this. Make sure you acknowledge what they're saying. Ask them questions. Apologize for your part before you give any other answer. Before you argue and before you assume, before you accuse. I have had to learn all these things the hard way. Hopefully you won't learn the hard way how important it is to acknowledge what the other person is saying before you answer. To ask before you assume, and or to apologize before you accuse. If it seems like the other person has apologized to you a lot more than you've apologized to them, it may not be because you've always been right. It may be because you're not as humble as them, and you haven't learned to apologize in a way that doesn't burn the other person or burn the bridge that you should be building in your marriage and in your relationships. Notice that I haven't said anything about avoiding these conversations. Don't avoid them. What I am saying is be careful that you don't fight fire with fire and attack because they're attacking. I challenge you, don't fight fire with fire. And when you start thinking that fighting fire with fire is the best answer, then just remember, firefighters fight fire with water, not fire.